This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Speak Up Effective Communication, the show focused on elevating our communication, leadership, and speaking skills in the auto repair industry. I'm your host, Craig O'Neill, and with me today, my guest, my friend, CEO of AutoFlow, my boss, Chris Cloutier.
Hey, Craig, how are you?
Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being with me. We have a great topic as we're going to recap, reflect, and just re-experience together the impact of our experience at Vision 2025. It was great. And there are reverberations of this that I have noticed since the event. And that is our word of the day. We do a word of the day on the podcast now each time. Reverberation. There, got it. First try. And we'll define that word after we hear a word from my sponsors who make this show possible. Looking to take your shop to the next level of quality service, team culture, and overall profitability? At the Institute, we provide personalized coaching that aligns with your goals of financial stability, excellent customer service, and employee satisfaction. Our priority is helping you establish significant and sustainable progress. We work with you to create strategies that reduce the stress of running your business, improve your quality and performance, and optimize your profitability. Experience the benefits of professional coaching by visiting wearetheinstitute.com/business-assessment. Hey friends, as you know, I'm a proud member of the AutoFlow team, and let me tell you, we've changed how business is done for auto shops everywhere. We support your client experience before, during, and after the work is done. Imagine this: timely updates sent directly to your clients, branded digital vehicle inspections, and seamless communication from start to finish. That's why shops love AutoFlow. And hey, with those 5-star reviews rolling in, you'll wonder how you ever managed without us. Take an important next step and take your auto shop to the next level. Visit www.autoflow.com. Get on board with an AutoFlow trial. Are you ready to meet your perfect auto repair shop management software partner? Well, say farewell to the days of transactional relationships and hello to a true partnership that elevates your business. The #1 all-in-one solution is AutoLeap. You're not just getting software, you're gaining a dedicated ally committed to your success. AutoLeap will help you sell more, save time, and delight your customers at every turn. From scheduling appointments to creating estimates, generating invoices, managing technicians, and seamlessly syncing with QuickBooks to keep your records updated, experience the difference a true partnership makes. Visit AutoLeap.com and book a demo today. AutoLeap, your trusted partner for success. Want to see your auto repair shop thrive? Are you looking to drive more customers to your auto repair shop? Let ShopDog Marketing be your guide. Our customer-first approach, combined with AI-driven creative content, ensures top rankings. Dominate mobile first and voice search with our specialized expertise. Reach out to ShopDog Marketing today and start growing your business. Don't miss out on this chance to boost your business. Visit shopdogmarketing.com. Inbound has exclusively served independent auto repair shops with expert communication solutions for years. Our robust VoIP platform ensures you stay connected while our industry-leading AI analytics take your business to the next level. We provide the tools you need to understand your customers and optimize every interaction. Choose Inbound for proven expertise and unmatched innovation. Visit callinbound.com and discover the difference we can make. All right, we're back. Reverberation is the word of the day. Got it right this time. It's a noun. It's a prolongation of a sound or a resonance, but it's also, and this is why I chose this for this topic today, a continuing effect, a repercussion. And that is why reverberation is the word. So, Chris, I've been feeling these reverberations from Vision. I think it's just really nice. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for sitting with me at this time now. And man, let's reflect. talk
Let's
about how this
reflect,
went.
man. Great
Yeah.
word, reverberation, Craig.
Yeah.
That's also a musical term. So me not being super educated because I am a musician, actually know that word. So I can use reverberation in our conversation today. That's wonderful. Let's
Yeah.
reflect. Where do you want to
Yeah.
begin, Craig? Because it was a
Dude,
wonderful, wonderful conference.
it
Let's just
was.
say this, shout out to Vision. Not that we don't discredit any other conferences, but Vision is certainly one of those at the top. Sherry
Ah,
does it right.
it is consistently one of my favorite conferences. I look forward to it every March, and this year was no different. This is the second year at Vision that we've had the opportunity to do the Speak Up Effective Communication course, where we were presenting this course. Now, this idea, gosh, Chris, I was trying to remember how the idea of the course actually originated because there were so many things happening all at once. This podcast with the term Speak Up actually is borrowed from the first course that we discussed. We were having fun with Toastmasters. We were talking about takeaways in Toastmasters. You had encouraged me to go into Toastmasters early on in my career with you. And we got this harebrained notion that, wow, it'd be kind of fun to do something like a communications workshop at a automotive conference.
Yes, and I think it was ASTA was our first
Yes.
time doing it, and we're like, "What if we made this public speaking / effective communication class? Will anybody show up?" And we thought nobody was gonna show up, right? We were like, "There's 12 people that will be," and we're 2 of those people, right, Craig? So,
Yeah. Yeah. I
us
think
and
we
10
were
other
figuring
people,
7.
yeah, yeah.
That'd be good.
And lo and behold, I remember I think we had 30 chairs in there and it was standing room only. And we had people lined up in the back. So there
Yeah.
was 35, 40 people. And I'm like, really? This is insane. And I think, we both kind of got that, when you get your hair standing up on your arms, you're like, hold on, there might be something here.
There
Like,
might be
wow,
some
maybe
here.
this industry is hungry for
Mhm.
something like that, even though we know that 76% of that room suffers from glossophobia and would rather die than get up in front of that room.
Yeah. Well, that's the fun part about the class. We start with this slide. 76% is on the slide, this big red numbers. And that's an ominous figure initially, right? And then we go into it. And of course, everyone in the room. And what do we make them do right out of the gate? Stand up, introduce themselves to the whole room.
And we've had people walk out, and I make sure, and now, Craig, you hear me, right? I'll walk up and down the aisles before, and I'll say, it doesn't matter if you sit in the back or the front, like you're going to be picked on. So if you don't want to get up and speak, you better leave now. And we've had people leave.
Yeah.
And it's funny, right? I think one of the
Pretty
stories from
rare, fortunately, but
it
yeah.
is. We've had, 1 or 2 here and a couple here. It's
Not
one of
very
those things, Craig, that facing the fear of public speaking is terrifying. It was
It is.
terrifying for me 20 years ago. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to face it. I wish I had recordings of me 25 years ago so I could show people how horrible I was in front of a room of people or 5 people even.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the journey, it's a hard journey to start, but I'm glad we've started it and started to propagate it through an industry that I think desperately wants it. They don't love it, but they want it.
They don't know they could love it yet. And that's the sort of the
Yeah.
thing. That's why I
But you're
love your
right.
story on this. They don't know they could because that fear is in the way. I try to explain to people that you are technically, at least, an introvert in all
I'm an
personality
introvert.
tests.
Yes.
Yeah. They're like, what, Chris? What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I recharge at home alone. I like quiet. After going through a conference on a weekend, I am drained. And
Oh,
I'm not
sure.
just drained from it's a long weekend. It's just, I have to go outside of myself to have the conversation and shake hands. And anybody listen, I hope they're not like, oh, wow, he doesn't like me. No, I like people. It's just, I'm a one-on-one kind of person and it makes it easier when I'm one-on-one. When I'm like 1-on-50, I'm like, crap, like this is a lot of energy for me to try and work the room and do the things we do. But once
Yeah.
again, glad that we've started this journey years ago. And like you said, it's grown. Craig, 2 years ago at Vision, we had 180 people.
Mhm.
And this last time once again, we're like 8 hours. No way we're going to have a full room. And Carm's like, no, there's 70, 80 people. I think there's
Mhm.
between 60 and 80 because we didn't count. We don't care.
No,
If
a
there's
lot of
8 people
instructors
in the
came
room,
in, several people who weren't registered. Yeah,
we had
that happens.
preachers, we had instructors, we had coaches, we had everybody,
Yeah.
service visors, we had technicians, we had owners. The lay of the land was plenty.
Yeah.
right?
Well, in every
And the
instance that we had done this class, well, you missed one of them. I remember because
yeah,
at
my
STX, we also
mother-in-law
did this
passed away.
after ASTA.
Yeah,
Yeah, your mother-in-law had passed away. You had to
yes,
leave. We were expecting to co-teach that and two other
yes,
courses at STX, and you weren't able to be there. And that room was about another 30 people at
yeah,
STX. Went well, and it definitely missed you, but fortunately there was a lady that was that wandered in who happened to be a veteran Toastmaster who was able to do the evaluation. It
yes,
was miraculous. It was
yeah,
really cool. But when we got to Vision, it was 2024 Vision. We didn't know how many people were in the course initially. It was like, it's in this ballroom. And then when asked, and how many people registered for the class, we expected another 30 people.
yes,
That seemed to be the
correct.
number. And 186, like, oh, okay, cool. For one, Chris, there's 186 people. You had to, we very quickly, we had to figure out how this more intimate like setting had to be adjusted on the fly to handle people at those tables. And it went great. That 2024 was tons of fun.
It was tons of fun, and because part of the reason the whole point of the class is to get people up and speaking. So, yeah,
Mhm.
getting 186 people to get up and speak and present, and not everybody got to get in front of
The
that
whole
room,
room, but their tables.
but
Yeah.
they got to talk to their tables, and some
Hmm.
people got to talk on their tables to the whole room. So, yeah,
Hmm.
like you said, we had to adjust on the fly. And
Brilliant.
that's one of the things that me and you talk about is like people always say, "Hey, once I start this journey," and I know we're going to talk about this later, like what do I need to do? Well, practice. Get up and talk. Like you
Yeah.
have so many opportunities in a day and a week to get in front of people. So it's encouraging to see people coming to these events and then practicing because they know I think now when they come to us, most people know, hey, I'm going to get up and talk. I'm going to get up and
Yeah.
butterflies be damned. I'm doing this.
Right. And that year, 2024, one of the most prominent points that I remember, it came up over and over and over again throughout the rest of the week that year, was everyone coming up and saying, "Oh, Noah was amazing. Noah was great." Noah Tracy came up. He did the speech nervous as heck. And Brandon, who was on stage managing slides for us, described that stage as like shaking from the nerves. But everyone loved him. And that's what everyone
Loved
remembered
him.
from the class, right? You heard the same thing.
Craig, we talk about this like, how do you connect with people? It's being vulnerable. And
Hmm.
people love people who are vulnerable. They don't like people who brag and are, "Look at me, I'm kick ass." They
Yes.
like people who are real
Yes.
because they wanna know that you bleed like them, that you cry like them, that you laugh like them,
Mm.
and Noah was vulnerable.
Mhm.
Oh my god, you couldn't 100 this kid I say kid because 'cause I'm old now. Getting up in front of 86 people and facing this fear dead on, you couldn't help but love him.
Yeah, and that year it was 186. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
186,
great.
and it was a
Yep.
ballroom, Craig, like,
I know. Yep.
people don't might spend a whole lifetime not getting to stand in front of a ballroom of 186 people, like, that's
Yeah.
not a small room of 30 people, so yes, and I think that's part of Craig, it's as we reflect, one of the things that I've heard over and over again is, "Man, it's so cool you guys create this room of, like, comfortability and, like, I can express myself and I can't" like, it's not a room of judgment and people like, "Oh, I'm gonna totally judge how you speak." It's like people are like, "Oh, wow, we're gonna learn these tips and tricks, and we're gonna learn how to practice, we're gonna learn what the experts know," and we're scared as the next person, and we kinda let that out at the beginning, Craig. We talk about, man, we're all it's 100% of people are scared to talk. It's just 76% would rather die. And, when I get in front of a room, even after doing it for years and years and years, I still get the butterflies. They immediately go away. I transition them into energy and power. Like I've learned how to control them. But like you don't get away from that feeling of, wow, this is exciting. Like, and that's
Yeah.
good. Right. So creating that atmosphere to where people can become vulnerable and they can face their fears. I think that's one of the really cool things about the class that we're doing is creating this environment
Yeah.
where it's a trust environment, a comfortable environment where you can
Yeah.
be
Setting
vulnerable.
the stage for that environment was key. And I think vulnerability is key. And that's, I think, why this year it was an interesting thing for fast forward now to 2025. The big difference between the course is that, all right, let's do this as an all day. I remember registering. It's like, we can do it as a 3 hour, we can do it as a 4 hour, we can do it as an all day. Let's go all day and let's see how that goes. And it was accepted. And I wasn't sure, is that going to get the same amount of people? Probably not. And it didn't. And that's okay. But we've always felt that there was need for more time at the end of the class. Like there was a lot more that like we felt rushed every single time at the end. So this was good to have the space So with the time constraints off, I felt like it was a little bit easier to really just lean into a couple of things that I wanted the room to sense out of the gate. And when we explained to them that, okay, this is a speech workshop. You're going to get up and speech. There's two things we're going to work on in this thing. We're going to work on content and delivery. Content is going to be real simple because we're going to ask you to speak about yourself. And you may remember one of the things that I really wanted to drive home on this is like, I know bringing that up for a room of people nervous about speaking, they got this little voice in the back of their head and they're thinking, no one wants to hear about me. No one wants to hear what I have to say. I can't get up and talk about me. Can I talk about something else other than me? And it's like, all right, number one thing, you want to become a more effective communicator. You got to improve some self-talk.
Absolutely. And then we also talk about talking about yourself. People are unconfident, but then the one thing that we say, nobody can tell you you're lying about your own story. Yes. Right? You can get facts wrong. You can get figures wrong. You can get other stories wrong. But when the story is about yourself, guess what? Only your mom can tell you're lying, and she's not in the room, so you don't have to worry about it. Right. So your story, I mean, Craig, you've called me out before, and you're like, dude, I thought so-and-so was in that story. And then this time you've added now Uncle Tommy into the story. And now you've got in, and I'm like,
you even have
I mean, so now sometimes my stories get embellished now and they change, but nobody else. And I'm not saying like I'm trying to lie. It's just, when you tell a story, sometimes you embellish. That's why we like movies. Movies are about stories, about people. And those are the ones we really like. So that self-doubt and that self-talk, you're absolutely right.
It keeps people from coming. It's a component of the fear and anxiety if they don't feel like anyone cares about them. And then that's the flip side of it. And I look to the other side of the room to draw this emphasis. That means, okay, some of you are also thinking, oh, great, we're going to sit and listen to a bunch of speeches about all these other people. I don't care. I don't want to hear them. I don't want to listen to this. I'm here to learn. And I was just, well, hey, you're still a participant. And number one thing, if you want to become a better communicator, you have to care about other people. Absolutely. And you have to be able to listen. Right? Yes. And I think I feel like that resonated and set the stage for like, audience, you are an active participant in helping these other people overcome these fears that they have. And that's a beautiful thing. Even if you yourself don't get up and speak, you're going to still feel something and you have a role to play too. And
absolutely. And just going to the stories about yourself and stories in your journey in life. And it is, once again, if you can make it relate to that point you're trying to make, and if you have a little bit of vulnerability in the story, it immediately creates connection with other people. Because as I said, like, Craig, one of the things I talked about, I didn't bring up the go-kart thing, but I said I'm a musician, right? And then I'll ask how many musicians are in the room, who plays guitar, who doesn't, and then immediately have connection with 5 people in the room.
Yeah, done.
Immediately 5 people like, totally. Oh, Chris, after class, oh man, I remember when I used to go gigging at night and the 4 in the morning load ins and checkouts, you get paid $25. And so immediately when you start telling your story, it allows people to connect to pieces of you. And so it does become important. People do want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think that brings to mind another thing that happened in this class too. You had a slide. I'll have to pull it up and pull this up. You have a proverb on one of the slides. And what ended up happening is that resonated immediately with other people in the room. And it's like, it got a little spiritual at multiple times. We didn't really bring church into the class, but it felt for a couple of times there then that church kind of came in as some of the people who really respected, especially the biblical elements of that, it opened them up a little bit and like, oh, okay, this is a safe audience to talk about this thing. And there was a lot of similarity there.
I think and here's the thing, Craig, as trainers and as people, I think that, I don't want to push religion on anybody. Absolutely. You don't either. Like I
don't think it came out that way.
I don't think anybody ever is like, I'm going to be saved when you tell me if you're not a Christian, you're going to hell. Like pretty sure that's never been an effective way for Christians to convert people. Nope. Maybe when they had their swords at their head and they're like, I'm going to chop your head off back in the Crusades if you don't profess your love of God. But pretty sure that they had a lot of resentment towards that. All we were doing, and it's interesting, right? When you allow people to have that space and that comfortability, like a lot of people's lives are testimonies, right? And you can't deny if they believe something. you can't say, well, that's not true, right? And that's, I think, once again, goes back to this allowing the room to be fertile. Tell your
Mhm.
story. If your story happens to be a testimony, nobody's going to deny your testimony. They can say, well, I don't believe in God. That's fine. I have people tell me that all the time, Craig. I'm so okay with that. I'm like, dude, and Chris, are you a Christian? Let me be completely honest with you. I am the kind of Christian that I hope Jesus will come hang out with, which means that I'm a sinner. It means that I
Yes.
know I am full of I make mistakes. Like, I'm not one to judge you. I'm not going to judge you, right?
Mm-mm.
And don't see this as a judgment. And when people were getting up there and they were telling their stories, and there was aspects of God and religion in there, they were just saying how he's influenced their lives, right?
Exactly.
It wasn't in a
Exactly.
judgmental
It
type
was
thing.
good. And
It
all that
was
happened
awesome.
was you had this simple proverb. It was Proverbs 12, 18 through 28. Rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing, is the
Absolutely.
snippet that we put down there. Yeah. And
Yeah,
that was it.
you know what?
Yep.
I use that, but in Proverbs, a righteous man falls down 7 times and gets back up again, which is
Mhm.
back to the Chinese proverb, man falls down 7 times, 8 times. There's so
Yep.
many biblical things that are actually business related. We just distract it. So
Yep.
I'm not going to hide who I am, Craig. I never will. On
I
Carm's
think
show
that
and all
that
the
was
radio
just it.
shows, I'm
To
okay with
to
professing.
hide something that is on your heart would not be authentic and genuine. And
Correct.
what we provide is you can be authentic and genuine regardless of what it is. A lot of times people feel like, oh, I can't bring religion or politics
Right.
or family matters or business matters in whatever the context of the situation is. In this particular context, we tried to strip it down to a point where people just felt comfortable. And that means that sometimes those, I guess, for whatever reason, controversial topics, it never got controversial. I think everyone was smart on that. We never even had to tell anyone not to bring politics in. It just stayed out.
And Craig, we talk about this in content, like, know your audience, know your room. Like, use of curse words, is that smart in a room full of auto repair shop technicians and service writers? You can probably get away with a couple of curse words, and they're probably not going to be super offended. If you are in church and you're a preacher and you're throwing out the F bomb, you're
Mhm.
probably going to lose your congregation. If you're
Yeah.
so knowing your audience and being comfortable with your audience is important, right? I don't think that, once again, we didn't discourage it. And Craig, let me bring up this point, which I think is an important point. Me and you have talked about this, and we just talked about this a little earlier. Like, isn't it okay to have a differentiating point of view and being able to still love a person who doesn't agree with your politics or your can we go back to civil conversations and say, hey, Craig, I really love you and your family, and I know you're a great person, and I know you're a good father, and I know you're a good husband, and you're a great employee. We might not agree on some political things, but who cares?
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
cares? And we can
Yeah.
still talk about those things, and we can be like, "Hey, we agree to disagree. Still love you, man." Like, we've
Yeah.
removed this ability to talk about these taboo things because of the echo chambers we live in now. I'm okay with, like,
Do you
"Hey, let's
think
talk
that
it."
that could be a big component of why people are afraid of public speaking, that they're afraid of offending someone with their point of view?
And we asked people at the beginning, like, "What are your fears?" And I think that did come up. Like, it's the fear of, like, being wrong or being judged. And I think you're right,
Mm.
Craig. I think that does drive some of the once again, when people come and they talk about their stories, right? If there's religion or politics in it, it's just part of your story. If somebody got up there and said, "If y'all all don't convert to Christianity right now, you're gonna burn in hell," I and you would both immediately get up and say, whoa, 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 whoa. We're not going to do that. Or if you're not a Republican or you're not a Democrat, like, you suck. Like, if you don't believe that, about, like, we're
Yeah.
not going to allow that, because then you're now trying to project on other people. But if you're
Maybe we
telling your
should
story,
have a debate class sometime, though.
well,
That'd be fun.
man, that would should be awesome. Actually, I brought that up to, I have brought that up to Carm before. I'm like, you should totally, like, bring religion and politics. And he's like, Chris, no. I mean, because it would be a great episode, but
Yeah.
wow, you'd offend half of the audience and you'd piss off the other half, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Not
maybe
the
one day
point.
we can do civil
Yeah.
debate.
No, the simple thing I bring into that thing, it's on the same slide as the proverb. Always love bringing that Dale Carnegie quote in. There's no such thing as a neutral exchange. You always leave someone a little better or a little worse in every interaction. That's like Carnegie 101, basis of
Yes.
his whole book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I think that's like a key takeaway for people who haven't, a lot of people haven't read that book. It's an old book.
Yeah.
Should be required reading.
Should be required reading.
Oh my gosh. So, all
Everybody
right.
graduating from college should read that book.
Yeah, honestly, even yeah, like getting high schoolers to
High school.
recognize it, how beautiful would that be?
High school. You're right. Call it high school. Read the book.
Yeah.
It's required reading.
Hey, while we're here, let's just go to middle school. No.
Well, let's talk about the school system and how they're screwed up and how if they just had everybody read one book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it would probably change the world in a
It-
positive way.
We joke. I think it's true.
It's true. But
It's
but
true.
Craig, we're never going to pass that through the school system because there's going to be 8,000
No.
objections of why that's a bad idea.
So let's go back to the course here a moment and favorite moments of the class. Like we did all these things. We had 5 different speeches in the first half. We had evaluators for those speeches. We got to hear from different people all leading up to that. They're working on introductions. They're working on the body of their speech. They're working on their conclusions. We gave some examples of how to structure the content in that first half of the class, or even just thinking about broadly the whole thing. What were your favorite moments?
My favorite moment was when Carmen Tracy showed up and, they came into the room
Yes.
and we put them both on the spot. But
Yes,
then
we
later,
did.
yeah, which I love that, right? Because Tracy's like, no. And then she rocks the room.
Yep.
But what I thought was super cool was when Carm said, hey, let's take a couple of your speakers and let's put them on my radio show. And dude, to me, Craig, that's like an honor. He didn't ask me and you to be on the show. He's like, no, I just want a couple of your people who have given speeches.
Yep.
To me, that's like, wow, what an honor to be able to. And we had a voting and we voted 2 people to go, Alan and that episode.
Alan and Corey.
Yeah. And the episode I think is coming out. I'm super anxious to hear it. That's cool. Right. So these people, now there's a little more motivation, like, oh man, I know Carm Capiretto. This is cool. Like I get to be on, like, even though one of the guys had been on the show before, but one of them hadn't. And I heard it was a bang up episode. So that was definitely like a highlight for me being able to say, hey, not only do you get to do this thing, which you're staring directly into fear and saying, I'm going to do this, as an added benefit, you get to go on this podcast that you probably heard a lot of episodes on and you get to be showcased on one. So definitely a highlight for me.
Tracy texted me the picture while they were recording of those guys at the recording booth. And this is now the day after the class. And I was like, that I think for me, that was a favorite moment as well, that their inclusion in this, it drew out the experience to a broader audience and gave an experience, even that reverberation of this class for them. A next step was born right there.
Yeah. Right there.
Beautiful. So this had a lot of effect on other people too. I guess, Chris, one of the things I'd be interested in hearing about is your thoughts on why this course does have an impact on people. Why is it so impactful in your perspective?
Yeah, I love the Socrates, know thyself. I love the other Epictetus quote that says, if you're an expert, you can't learn anything. I think that what I really like about this class is that once again, you mentioned it earlier, there were coaches in there. There were people who there were pastors in there. There were owners in there. There were people who have spoke before and they're like, hey, I just want to see. And it was very impactful to them because this journey of effective communication starts maybe in this class. And then you face this fear that is a mountain. And if you just take that first step and you take another step and another step and another step, the amount of confidence you build up, the amount of, that self-doubt, wow, I can do this, right? So I think growth comes, Craig, and we know this, when you're put in the most crappy situations. That's where true growth comes. And if you inject yourself into that crappy situation, wow, there is a lot of power in somebody saying, I hate public speaking. I'm going to start the journey, because you're putting yourself in a position you don't have to, right? You're putting yourself to be vulnerable, to have to learn to start over again, to learn to start at ground one and say, yeah, I've been speaking my whole life, but have I really been effective in my communication skills with my team, with my customers, with my boss, or my boss to my employees? Yeah. So I really think the power in it, Craig, is just, once again, putting yourself into a situation that is going to suck.
Yeah. Brandon's really good with that whole principle of embracing the suck. When you hire a Marine, you understand this stuff.
Yeah, there's growth in that, right? Because knowing thyself and knowing that, man, I'm not good at this, I'm going to get better at this, and taking the step. And, we'll talk about, the next steps, and we always do. Toastmasters is a great place to do it. Reading books, listening to books is a great place to do it. Just did an interview a couple weeks back, and it's like, dude, it's so easy to record yourself. If you're going to go talk in front of your child's school, go fire up Zoom and write the intro, body, and conclusion and go record it a couple times. You're going to hate it at first. Like, technology can help you. There's all these different ways to continue down this path.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And all these resources to make you a better communicator.
Yeah. Well, I think that was on display in the class too. You mentioned a bunch of things here that I think are relevant. Having instructors in there that do this for a living, having a pastor in there who's up there every Sunday delivering homilies or his sermons, and that marinated in this audience. And what I think one of my favorite moments was after the first half, we had done the speeches, we'd done evaluations of those first 5 speeches. We had Jesse, John, Keith, Corey, and Alan did the first 5 speeches, but then we had 3 more. We had Drew, who's going to be one of my podcast guests, come on here, and a couple others, and one of our friends even from the Christian Brothers Automotive, who's done things in front of room before as well, but never like this. And having that marinate in the second half and having 3 different people come up and say, hey, can I still do a speech? Yes, we're going to make this happen. And we did. And it created the opportunity. Sometimes it's like that, right? People just need that little bit of time and then they come on into it. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest benefits of having this be a full day thing too.
I went to this conference one and it was Never Split the Difference. The author of Never Split the Difference. I can't think of his name right now. I should. I spent a lot of money to go to this one day, all day, Chris Foss, thank you, all day event. And the room was probably about 30, 40 people. It was expensive, but it was cool. It's totally worth it. And I remember Chris, he would ask for, hey, do you want to volunteer to be a part of this thing? Right now, I've studied this book, Never Split the Difference, read it backward, forward. I've listened to it multiple times. Like, love this book.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't ever be one of those people to get involved. And I remember him saying about almost at the end of the day, which sucked. He was like, you know what? For those of you who did, now I asked questions and I made comments and all that because that's what I do, but I never asked to be one of the people who would be in the role play. And I remember at the end of the day, he goes, you know, for all of you, and it probably was you because he's a New Yorker, who did not participate actively, he goes, y'all missed out, because the ones who actively participated, it is burnt into their brain. And I'm like, damn it, why don't you say this at the beginning of your day? Probably if he said at the beginning of the day, then everybody would want to do it, and he knows everybody can't do it. So he says this, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm an idiot. I spent all this money and I could have been actively involved. So you're right, Craig. Like, in our class, we try and get everybody actively involved. Because of the sizes, we only get so many people who get to go up in the front of the room. So yes, like those people who take that opportunity to go to the front of the room, man, Craig, you know what's going to happen in the back of their head. It's just going to nibble away.
Oh, you know,
when are you going to do it again? When are you going to do it? When are you going to join Toastmasters?
Next time I'm going to do it.
Oh, you get an opportunity to go speak for your child's school. You going to go do that? No, I don't want to. You know, it's that battle back and forth. You know how it goes.
I do. I know all too well. There's so many times, and all of us have those stories where, gosh, I wish I would have. Yes. Wish I would have. This is pretty great. Now, there's a couple other things I wanted to dive into on this. One of the things is putting this, just by chance, this course for us was at the front end of the experience at Vision. Yeah. So it was on Thursday all day. And that means we had Friday, we had Saturday, and there was Sunday as well. And the interactions that came about, for me, there are unexpected takeaways that I began to hear. And for one, the people that we recognize passing in the hallways now, it's like, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. You know, a lot more people after that first class, especially one where there's engagement and you actually get to hear them. Way more, I feel like, Chris, than I've been to technical training seminars. You might get to know the guy to the right and left of you, or the guy that raises his hand and talks too much. But everyone else is a stranger still at the end of some of those classes, unless they're your friends going in. We had people forge friendships because of the experience in the class. Attendees who had decided to sync up for lunch on Friday because they had heard each other and got to know each other a little bit better. And that, for me, as I started to hear these little stories trickle in, was awesome.
Going back to telling your story makes you vulnerable, but immediately creates connection. Here we are. Everybody's telling their stories. Everybody's vulnerable. Everybody's talking about how they hate it, public speaking, but they're doing it.
Mhm.
And right, that connection, you're right, Craig, it immediately starts happening. We probably need to start calling the class Networking 101, right? You want to learn everything you want to learn about somebody else, just come. Like, we've got 2 more classes out of this, right? We
Yeah.
can do what'd you say, a debating class, and now we've got Network
Yeah.
101. You really want to get to know the people in the room. And you're absolutely right, Craig. Me and you do other trainings, right? You did the art of digital sales, and you had a full room, 60, 80 people in that room. But how many people at the end of it became friends? Right?
Yeah.
How many people were like, "Oh, hey, Dimitri." Oh my, it's Dimitri. He was one of my, right? Dimitri, who told the story of his child that was born. And he did the hand handheld. Was that Dimitri?
I
Right,
believe
Greg?
so. Yes. Yep. Yep.
Like, every time anybody saw Dimitri, "Hey, Dimitri, hey, how you doing?" Like you said, Drew, all these people, Alan, and it was. Whenever you
Mhm.
saw them, whenever they saw us, whenever they saw other people in the room, and it's because of those stories they told. It's because there's something
Bingo.
they can relate about. There's something they can talk about. Really, you're stripping them down to not the guy in the room who's saying, and this is what happens in technical training as well as,
Mhm.
the management training. Look, if I'm asking a question, I'm like, "Hey, Craig, I run a badass shop. I kill it in what I do, but I have this question." And I'm not gonna like be vulnerable and be like, "Hey, Craig, like I suck at this thing that you're teaching. Like I'm not good at digital sales. I'm not good at presenting this to the customer." Like nobody says that question, right? Everybody's like, "I do it really good, but I still have this question," right? Whereas and so you don't like that guy because you're like, "Dude, do you really do it that good? Why are you in this class if you're
Yep.
doing it that good, right? Why can't we just be like vulnerable in these rooms and be like, "Hey, I suck. I'm just trying to get better at it." And I
Yeah.
think like our class is like, we know you suck. 70, once again, 76% of the room. We know
We
you are
too are on
scared
a
to death.
journey
Right? Yeah.
of sucking
You're
less
scared to
every
death
day.
right now. You're sweating. We can see the sweat coming off of your brow because we're telling you you're going to have
Yeah.
to do an introduction
Just
at the
that
beginning of the room.
alone. I love that point where we finish the introductions and then we go to the slide about the symptoms of glossophobia, sweating, increased heart rate. How many of you experienced any one of these symptoms? Every hand
Yeah,
goes up.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. Like
Yeah.
it's in everyone. You're on the spot. You're vulnerable. I love it. I think it should be, and my realization is like every event needs something like this at the front of the event. Right at
Yeah.
the front, we're going to be vulnerable then, and everyone's going to like each other better
Yes.
throughout the rest of the experience and our time together in that place. And the presence that room felt was really wonderful. Really
Connection.
wonderful.
That's
It's
awesome.
just my favorite thing to do. It's like, honestly, every time that we have classes to submit now for ASTA, and it's like, I just want to do this one.
Yeah. Right.
That's it.
Right. Well, we got 3 more now, so we can put in a couple more. We don't
Oh
just have
yeah.
to.
So let me ask this, Chris, back to a personal point. Like, first of all, it's important that everyone understand, like, even my inclusion on this journey and how this came to be this perfect picture of what a shared vision is. You've shared a vision, or at least a passion, even with me by encouraging me to go to Toastmasters. I found this love for working with people and improving communication, myself and them. Friendships have been forged. My home Toastmasters club, these are like my adult friends now in my
Nice.
life, a life-changing group of
Yeah.
people. And we're continuing to have influences in each other's lives to change things. Did you ever imagine your passion for this topic would culminate in the experiences and observations like we're discussing today?
No, Craig, it's nothing's ever planned like that. I think, and this, one of my core values is to pour into other people, right? And
Mhm.
and the reason why that's one of my core values for myself is because other people in the past have poured into me, right?
Yeah.
I tell the story about Mark when I was in one of my early jobs at Wyndham International, and I was in a room and we were talking philosophy, and Mark was like, "You are the worst communicator ever. Like, Chris, love your ideas, but
Yeah.
you are horrible at expressing them. Like you jump and then you stop and then you start and then you switch to another one." He's like, "Come to Toastmasters." And I was offended. I was like, "Screw you,
Mm.
Mark. I don't know." And he was like, "Chris, really, you should consider it." So I showed up, went to it. I'm like, God, I don't want to do this. But then I realized, hey, if I'm going to grow, want to be a leader, like I got to steer into it, and I've got to take the step. So somebody poured into me, and there's example after example after example after example of people who have pulled me out of my comfort zone and told me and challenged me, right? So I think as human beings and as the human experience, like we owe it to others to say, "Hey, come on the journey. Let me help you if you're willing to be helped." There's people that are like, I use the analogy, Craig, here's the glass. I'll pour into somebody if they allow me to pour into them. As soon as they put the cover over the glass, I don't
Mm.
have time I don't. right? I can't
work at prying this thing off. No.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to. You know, we
Yeah.
talk about this. Feedback's a gift like you receive on Christmas morning. Say thank you when you receive it and then decide what you're going to do later. You can re-gift it, you can keep it, or you can throw it away. So that to me says, hey, here, let me receive what you have, right? In that feedback, that gift, let you pour and listen. And then I can decide to dump it out. I can decide to drink it, or I can decide to put it off to the side, right? Or give it to Craig, right? So I think understanding like what, this,
Hmm.
are you able to take this first on yourself? And then are you able to share it with others? I never imagined, Craig, it was just a journey that was started a long time ago. You were one of those people, early on, I'm like, Craig, man. So let me be clear. You look like Geddy Lee, which is one of my favorite, Rush is one of my favorite bands. I'm like, dude, this guy needs to be famous, right? And I saw you a couple of times. I listened to your Carm thing. And then I said, hey, Craig, would you be willing to go on this journey with me? Because I think you have, like me, you have really good ideas, but you're not succinct. Like at the time, you kind of jumped around and it reminded me, reminiscent of me. And I'm like, hey, come
Motor
on this
mouth.
journey with me. And you can experience the same thing I have. And Craig, what took me 20 years took you 5 years. I mean, you are a master now at getting up in the room. You're a master at presenting, right? It took me 20 years and I'm still learning. I get to revel and the reverberation of seeing Craig in his journey and all the people now he's influenced with a radio show. Like, wow, dude, like that's an honor. But truly, bring God into it. Like that's just a God thing to me, because I think as the core of what Jesus wants us to do is just give. Like love covers all. Like when you love people and you encourage people and you pour into people, like amazing things can happen. So
Amazing things can happen. Yep.
yeah,
Nope. And I'll bring God into it too. I'm thankful that he led me to a leader like you that can put me on this journey, man. It's
I
been
appreciate
been a trip. Thank you for the kind words. Now, thinking of our guests in our course, our friends that we've made there, what do you hope to see next for them?
I hope that they do look at joining a Toastmasters club. It's one of the best right now until me and you set up something, which eventually
Mhm.
we'll have to set up something where we kind of give them the first taste and it's like, okay, what's next? And we're like, we'll go to Toastmasters. I think Toastmasters is one of the best routes to take. Continue. We've had people now that have, I think, almost three-peated in these classes that
Yeah.
we're doing. Hey,
Yep.
at least it's once a year. You're forcing yourself to get up and rehash it, right? Books. Books are a great way. Go study. Go take the opportunity to do that toast that at that wedding. Go take the opportunity to go speak at your kid's school. I've spoke at my kid's school so many times. My kids don't want me to speak at their school anymore. Right? They're like,
Yeah.
nope, Dad, don't get
Yeah.
to. Sorry. And I'm like, but I'm really good. But they're like,
Yeah.
nope, we're old now and we don't want you here. And I'm like, okay. Because I don't pass up opportunities to speak, Craig. I
Good.
do, but they're very rare when I do, right? It's
Yeah.
a time constraint if I have to pass it up is the thing. So practicing and then the more you can learn, we talk about this in the class, peeling away those layers of the onion and realize there's an art
Mm.
to speaking. There's an art to
Yes.
communicating.
Yep.
Know those ins and outs, right? And it will make you a better and more effective communicator.
Refining those skills will make it less tempting to avoid those opportunities to speak, I feel like. And once
Craig,
you have that confidence.
alls and ums. I'm pretty sure Tracy's only going to have to cut out like 3. I don't think
Yeah.
we've had many.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
I
Like
think I heard one. Yes,
that's
it's
pretty
great.
good.
Making her job easy.
Hopefully Tracy's laughing right now. That'll be in the future. She'll be laughing at, oh, really? Did
Right.
Chris just call me out on after post? Yes, I did.
Nope. I got to get you missed the Toastmasters meeting this week for the
I
online
did.
club for
And it
the
was her
automotive industry. Remarkable
birthday.
results Toastmasters. It was her birthday.
Happy
but
birthday,
she-
Tracy.
Yes.
She'll
yes.
also see that hopefully in post. So
Oh, she will. And she gave a great introduction about the anxiety that she normally has for her introduction, even to our online Toastmaster meetings, and how we threw her on the spot. And she didn't get to have that week and a half of anxiety about her message that she's going to have. She had like an hour and a half tops, and probably less than that, to then stand in front of a group of people. Again, I'll say this. One of my favorite takeaways for that class is she got to basically function as the presiding officer of the second half of the meeting. And I think it's so important as president of our online Toastmaster club that she had that live experience in front of the room. It's so much better. Online is great because it covers vast distances, but there's nothing better than being in the room with people and experiencing
agreed.
that. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, even this distance between us here in Michigan and you in Texas right now, Chris, thanks for joining me in this conversation, dude.
Been
This has
wonderful,
been
Craig.
absolutely on my radar. I just couldn't wait to do this. I felt like things are so busy at the end of Vision. There's all this stuff going on in the company anyways. We don't usually just get to sit down and do this. I feel like we just missed this time to just sit and reflect.
Reverberate.
And let it happen. There it is.
I don't know.
Reverberation.
That's ruminate. Sorry, wrong
Ruminate
word.
too.
Ruminate.
Yes. But thanks for allowing me to reverberate some of your passion into this topic as well. Your sponsorship and leadership over this has mattered. And folks, thank you for all listening here to this as well. This conversation has been important to me to have with Chris. I hope you very much enjoyed hearing from him as well. I know you have. And don't forget, there are some other great shows here on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Carm Caprato, we mentioned him, and Tracy, of course. There's Remarkable Results Radio. And then there's also Diagnosing the Aftermarket A through Z with Matt Fonslow. We saw him at Vision. Matt, by the way, folks, is not a jerk. He just acts like one sometimes for fun. No, he's a great guy, great sense of humor. And Hunt Demarest, Business by the Numbers. Accounting doesn't have to suck either. Hunt Demarest makes it fun. Quite the character himself. You'll enjoy him. And Brian and Kim Walker with the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast. Chris, I'm sure you saw they just put out a really funny ad video where Brian's pretending, like, making fun of the way people market technicians with their coveralls and the big wrenches. It's hilarious. Such a great piece. And Coach Chris Cotton, had a recent conversation with him as well, but you can listen to his weekly blitz here on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Once again, thank you to the sponsors. Thank you, Chris, for making this show possible. Now, get out there, folks. Listen up before you speak up and keep speaking up. Keep that practice going. Thanks.
You've been listening to Speak Up, Effective Communication with Craig O'Neill on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Craig on your favorite podcast listening app and on his YouTube channel. Let him know what you'd like him to speak up about. Craig is all for advancing the automotive service aftermarket.